West Africa Democracy Radio. We are the station.
We are the station.
Other radio stations listen to 94.9 FM. Your dial for top news, informative programs, music, and lots more.
We are West Africa Democracy Radio.
Monday to Sunday.
It's hard to explain, okay? But
all day. All year round.
it's so mysterious.
This is who we are.
This is who we are.
WADR.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's midday here in Dakar and 1 o'clock in Porto Novo. Good afternoon and thank you for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world at wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Guinea-Bissau's Electoral Commission calls Sunday's vote peaceful as counting continues. Amnesty International warns education faces more setbacks in northern Nigeria.
We are going to have a generation of children completely without education. Right now, because of this kidnapping, hundreds of schools have been closed in so many states.
Opposition in the Gambia kicks as government confirms hosting Cameroonian opposition leader Chiroma on humanitarian grounds.
The manner in which this matter has been handled raises serious questions about transparency, accountability, and respect for the Gambian people's right to know.
And G20 summit ends in South Africa with a 122-point declaration without America. The stay tuned for details of the stories and more.
Here is Imo Edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. Let's begin in Guinea-Bissau, where vote counting continues after Sunday's presidential and parliamentary elections. According to the National Electoral Commission (CNE), no major incidents of electoral violence were recorded throughout the day. Deputy Executive Secretary Idrissa Jallo said the polls proceeded calmly, noting that minor logistical issues were quickly resolved as more than 960,000 citizens were called to vote. He commended the cordial behavior of candidates and highlighted the strong participation of women and young people, describing it as a sign of growing democratic engagement. More than 3,000 polling stations open on Sunday, but the CNE has yet to release turnout figures from the nearly 800,000 eligible voters expected to cast their ballot. Election observers have praised the process as largely transparent, though they noted some shortcomings, including missing names on the voters' roll. For many Bissau Guineans, participation in the polls is driven by a desire for positive change. WDR's team in Bissau gathered reactions from citizens.
Omaro Sissoko Embalo, Fernando Dias da Costa.
Watching this vote count, I feel like I'm not a Guinean from Bissau. I went to several polling stations in vain. I couldn't find my name. Yes, it was at this polling station that I registered. It hurts, but it's necessary to witness the count to see what's happening. But I wanted to vote to contribute to the development of my country. There are many people like me who didn't see their names on the list. I even went to the Electoral Commission, but nothing changed. The woman next to me is in the same situation. Yes, I think Jazz will win because the population is very tired. We need change. There is no healthcare, no food, and development is non-existent. That's why I think Fernando Jazz will win. This has gone on for so long. It has to change.
Bissau Guineans speaking there. Let's remain in Bissau, where a WADR team has been covering the proceedings, while Fernando Jazz, the main rival in the November 23 presidential election, readies to present what he said were electoral irregularities noted during the voting process on Sunday. WDR's Francis Bonfils joins us for an update on the current situation.
Well, today being Monday, most people have gone back to their businesses. Businesses have started opening up. People are going about their normal activities. You would even think there was nothing like an election yesterday because all activities are resuming as we speak. In terms of the climate, politically, it's one of different sides already claiming victory early on. Both the ruling party and the different opposition candidates. So we have their supporters already claiming victory, especially on the social media, which happens a lot in most elections. So it's not really a surprising scenario, but we'll wait and see what that leads to and whether that has the chances of affecting the counting, the collating, and everything of the results.
Now, yesterday during the elections, a spokesperson for the Electoral Commission in Guinea-Bissau, CNE, in the person of Idrissa Jallo, did say that the provisional result will be published or released in 4 days. Is that statement still standing, or there's been a counter statement?
There hasn't been any counter statement right about now, and I think they sounded really confident. Talking about the spokesperson of the Electoral Commission, he sounded really confident about the fact that there should be provisional results by Wednesday. So that is the last we heard about that. That is what we are going with at the moment.
Francis Boniface there speaking from Bissau. Now let's take you to Nigeria, where Amnesty International has raised their alarm that the recent mass abductions of pupils and students from schools will cause a serious setback to education in the northern region. The country director, Issa Sanusi, explained that the trauma associated with abduction or the fear of being abducted will prevent thousands of children from going back to school and accessing education. Speaking to WDR on Monday, Sanusi expressed concern that many parents will now be hesitant to send their children to school due to the growing wave of school kidnappings. The spike has seen the Bauchi state government ordering the immediate closure of all public and private schools across the state, including state-owned primary, secondary and tertiary institutions, as well as federal government-owned schools. It joins a list of states such as Yobe, Kebbi and Katsina that have shut down schools due to heightened insecurity and the recent mass abductions of students in parts of the country. The Amnesty International country director warned that this could result in an entire generation of children being denied access to education.
The impact of this on education in northern Nigeria, the spate of kidnapping and abductions of school children, is going to be far-reaching, is going to be devastating, because hundreds of schools have been closed and most of these schools will never be reopened again. And many children will never return to school again because their parents are actually skeptical about the possibility of their children staying safe and protected from bandits and other criminals. And this will mean that we are going to have a generation of children completely without education. Right now, because of this kidnapping, hundreds of schools have been closed in so many states. Now, even when these schools are reopened, many parents don't allow their children to go back, and the schools remain forever, indefinitely closed, and they will never reopen again. To ensure safe schools, first of all, the Nigerian government has to re-examine its security architecture and make sure that they review their security plans to make sure that they change them, they upgrade them, they improve them. They have to show the criminals and the bandits and the terrorists that, yes, we are in power and we can do what is good for Nigerians, we can protect lives. But if Nigerian government cannot protect people, this is going to be very dangerous.
Issa Sanusi is the country director of Amnesty International Nigeria.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In Togo, the National Gendarmerie has responded this weekend to allegations circulating on social media claiming that Grace Bikuni-Bajate Kumai was subjected to rape and ill treatment during her arrest on June 6. In a statement, the Gendarmerie firmly denies these accusations, calling them completely unfounded. Augustine Kule reports.
According to the gendarmerie's statement, Grace Kumai was first arrested on June 6, 2025, during an unauthorized demonstration. She was presented before the prosecutor on June 10 and released the same day after a reminder of the law, just like others detained during the event. Now held at the Lomé Central Prison, Grace Kumai is accusing security forces of sexual assault and ill treatment during that earlier arrest, accusations the National Gendarmerie categorically refutes. Here is Agba Mazalo, head of the communications unit of the National Gendarmerie.
Dame Kumai, along with the 31 other individuals in custody, including 9 women, received a visit from a delegation from the National Human Rights Commission, which expressed satisfaction with the detention conditions throughout this period. From that visit to her indictment by the investigating magistrate and her appearance before the prosecutor in the presence of her lawyers, she never reported any sexual assault or any form of cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment.
The gendarmerie is calling for discernment in the face of what it says are manipulations that could fuel tensions on social media, and says the justice system is continuing its review of the case calmly and objectively. In this context, Agba Mazzello again says,
The National Gendarmerie reiterates its commitment to upholding human rights and following due legal procedures. It urges the public to remain vigilant against misinformation circulating on social media and assures that all allegations will be thoroughly reviewed and addressed appropriately. Togo remains a state governed by the rule of law, and judicial bodies continue to handle the case with calm and professionalism.
As a reminder, Grace Kumai, still in detention, is a rising figure in social protest movements, most of her visibility built through social media.
Now, Silvia Drago's report in Lomé, presented by Augustine Colley. The Gambian government has confirmed that Cameroonian opposition leader Issa Chiroma Bakary is currently in the country. According to the government, Bakary is being hosted temporarily purely on humanitarian grounds amidst post-election tensions in Cameroon. Chiroma, 76, who contested the October 12 presidential election and rejected the announced victory of President Paul Biya, who is 92, arrived in the Gambia on the 7th of November 2025. WDR's Banjul correspondent Sang Donald Mendy has the rest of the story.
The Gambia government says it is coordinating with regional partners, including Nigeria, to ensure the safety of Cameroonian opposition leader Issa Chiroma, while supporting a peaceful resolution to Cameroon's political dispute. However, the United Democratic Party UDP has expressed concern over the delay in publicly announcing Chiroma's presence, questioning the government's transparency. Sekou Kamara is the admin secretary, media and communication for the United Democratic Party.
While the Gambia has a very proud tradition of offering sanctuary on humanitarian grounds, the manner in which this matter has been handled raises serious questions about transparency, accountability, and respect for the Gambian people's right to know what actions are taken in their name by their government. This is our main point of contention, is the concern of accountability and transparency regarding this matter.
Kamara stated that the party respects the Gambia's humanitarian tradition, but warned that the lack of clarity raises doubts about the official explanation for his stay.
The UDP call on the government of the Gambia to provide a full and transparent briefing to the National Assembly and the Gambian people on the circumstances surrounding Mr. Bakary's arrival in the Gambia. Second, to clarify the nature and duration of his stay, the security arrangements that they put in place, and any commitment made to external states or stakeholders in this matter.
Chiroma fled Cameroon under pressure after declaring himself the winner of the disputed poll. The Cameroonian government has since reportedly intensified calls for his arrest. Meanwhile, the government has pledged to keep the public informed as regional mediation efforts continue, while the UDP continues to call for clarity and transparency regarding the opposition figure's presence in the country. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Sang Donald Mendy reporting from Banjul.
Police in Ghana's eastern region have arrested 26-year-old Nigerian fugitive Victor Benjamin Fajamirokum, suspected of abducting and killing a woman and her daughter in Nigeria before fleeing to Ghana. It was picked up at Akwem-Wenchi near Akwitua after intelligence revealed it was being sheltered by friends in the area. The arrest follows a viral video in Nigeria alleging that Fajamirokum abducted and murdered a female Federal Road Safety Corps officer and a daughter in Abeokuta, later transporting their bodies to Osun State. Here is DOCP George Oheneboadi briefing the media.
Eastern South Regional Police Command, on receipt of the information that the suspect was hiding in his friend's house at Akwitua, quickly deployed an intelligence-led operations to arrest the suspect in his hideout at Akwem-Wenchi in the eastern region. The suspect is currently in police custody as frantic efforts are underway to hand him over to the Nigerian authorities. We are entreating the public as a matter of urgency to inform the police about any suspicious movement of any person or group of persons in their communities to prevent crime. We assure the public of sustained operations to deal with any criminal activities in the jurisdiction.
That was the OCP George Oheneboadi of the Ghana Police Service. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar, and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Guinea-Bissau's Electoral Commission calls Sunday's vote peaceful as counting continues. Amnesty International warns education faces more setbacks in northern Nigeria. Opposition in the Gambia kicks as government confirms hosting Cameroonian opposition leader Chiroma on humanitarian grounds. And still ahead in the news, G20 summit ends in South Africa with a 122-point declaration without America. We do have the press review, a guest interview, and sport news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Don't forget, we are streaming live on wadr.org, YouTube, and Facebook. Now, amid growing concerns over money laundering, terrorism financing, and other illicit financial flows, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, is doubling down on its support for the Intergovernmental Action Group Against Money Laundering in West Africa, JABA. The commitment was highlighted during JABA's 44th plenary session held recently in Monrovia, where member states and international partners gathered to strategize and strengthen regional efforts to combat economic crime. The 44th plenary session featured closed-door regional forums, discussions among financial intelligence units, among others. WDL's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
Established in 2000, GABA serves as the Financial Action Task Force for West Africa. GAPA's Director General Edwin Harris acknowledged the crucial role of international partners in hosting GAPA's mission over the past 25 years.
JABA will remain at the forefront of efforts to address these evolving threats. Through effective coordination, capacity building, we will continue to assist member states in strengthening their institutional framework and ensuring alignment with international MSCFD standards.
ECOWAS Ambassador to Liberia, Josephine Nkrumah, emphasized the regional body's unwavering commitment to GABA, pledging continuing resources, reforms, and a collaborative platform.
Your work is vital. It is deeply impactful and profoundly appreciated. ECOWAS remains firmly committed to supporting you with resources, reforms, and a collaborative platform.
Officer in charge of the Financial Intelligence Agency of Liberia, Mohamed Nasser, on his part, said the mission will enhance the capacity of financial institutions in the sub-region.
This plenary represents another timely opportunity to examine our progress, interrogate our challenges, and agree on a practical steps that will reinforce our structure effectively and to enhance information sharing, improve risk assessment, strengthen supervisory mechanism, carry on evaluations as it relates to FATA standards.
By reinforcing GABA's capabilities, ECOWAS aims to create a more secure and stable financial environment, fostering economic growth and regional prosperity. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
Now, the gathering of the world's influential and wealthiest economies, the G20 summit, wrapped up in Johannesburg on Sunday with a declaration. The declaration was backed by global and regional leaders at the summit despite America's absence. The 122-point Johannesburg declaration, among others, prioritizes Africa's growth, debt relief, climate finance, and energy transition. While the South African G20 declaration is seen as a victory for the summit, diplomatic tension looms. The gavel that would have traditionally handed down to the next presidency remains in South Africa as the country refused for a junior official at the U.S. Embassy to receive it on behalf of President Donald Trump, who boycotted the summit. South Africa's Minister of Foreign Affairs described it as insulting to President Ramaphosa. Well, here's an extract of President Ramaphosa's closing statement.
The G20 South Africa Summit Leaders' Declaration is more than words. It is a commitment to concrete actions that will improve the lives of people in every part of the world. Our agreement on a declaration during this summit demonstrates the value of the G20 as a forum that can facilitate joint action on issues of shared concern. Shared concern not only for the leaders, but shared concern for the peoples of the world. More than that, it reaffirms our renewed commitment to multilateral cooperation and our recognition that our shared goals outweigh our differences. Together, we must accelerate progress towards the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations and the Pact for the Future.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa speaking there.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
We head back to Nigeria as we join us tomorrow for the newspaper review.
Hello and welcome to the press review segment today from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. The papers today are dominated by a familiar but worrying theme. Meanwhile, we'll be taking a look at Daily Trust newspaper, the Punch newspaper, and the Daily Champion. Now, the Daily Trust newspaper leads with yet another disturbing development from Borno State, where ISWAP fighters abducted 13 teenage female farmers in Askira Uba. One of the girls managed to escape and has been reunited with her family, but 12 others remain missing. Local communities are calling for urgent intervention, saying the latest attack is part of a troubling resurgence of mass kidnappings across the region. Still on insecurity, the Punch newspaper follows up on the earlier abduction of worshippers in Kwara State. 38 of those taken during the church attack have now been reunited with their families after they have regained their freedom. Families and state officials are relieved, but concerns remain high as, of course, investigators try to piece together how the attackers struck during a service that was being streamed live, leaving casualties and reigniting fears about assaults on places of worship. Away from security matters, the Punch also reports fresh movements in the fuel market. Following the federal government's suspension of import duties on petrol, there has been a surge in shipments heading for Nigeria. The traders say the policy shift has opened up the market and encouraged more vessels to load products for the country. The expectation is that this could ease supply pressures and possibly stabilize pump prices, even as citizens continue to feel the cost of living strain. And that's the much we have for you on this edition of Press Review as I return you to the studio.
Many thanks, Usman Umar.
Politics,
analyses on major news,
social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, we'll take you back to this year's G20 summit, which wrapped up in Johannesburg over the weekend, with African priorities taking center stage, from debt restructuring and climate finance to reform in global governance. For the first time, South Africa hosted a summit on the continent, giving African leaders a rare platform to push for a fairer international economic order. But beyond the headlines and high-level communiques, what does this summit actually mean for Africa? Will the commitment made translate into real gains for ordinary people, or will there remain diplomatic promises? To help us unpack the outcomes and what they signal for the continent's economic and political future, we're joined by Desiree Asogbavi, Advocacy Advisor for Africa at the Open Society Foundation's OSF.
G20 is not a treaty body. So outcome of a G20 are not binding document, they are not treaty, they are not convention, but they are basically what we can call gentleman agreement, where countries are all on the same line on the big problem that the whole world is facing and how they can put their hand together to fix those issues. Now, South Africa is hosting G20 for the first time in African soil, but also now we are seeing the African Union as a continental body joining G20 as a full member. AU has been observers before. Now, since 2023, AU has become a full member of G20. So it is important that the outcome of these gatherings are not just, documents on paper, just to wish on paper. They have to tackle the real problems. They have to result from priorities of the continent, and they have to come up with clear agenda in terms of the implementation.
For South Africa, this is seen as a major victory, a major milestone. But again, there are concerns about some of the obstacles that may hinder the implementation of some of the priorities set out by the document, like you rightly stated. One, because President Donald Trump, who chairs the next presidency, boycotted the summit. What's your take on that?
This is very regrettable, because the discussion we are having is not linked to a particular geographic zone of the world. We are all concerned about what is going on. It is about justice, it's about equity, it is about having a safer world for everybody, whether from our generation or for the generation that are coming. For South Africa anyway, the fact that the G20 happened to adopt a communique is a victory, because it was not sure from the beginning that this consensus will happen and that a communique will be adopted. And South Africa basically surprised everybody positively, and actually did something very special, because the communique is normally discussed and adopted at the end of the 2 days program. But for this time in Johannesburg, South Africa tabled the discussion and the adoption of the communique at the first item of the agenda at the beginning of the meeting. And that happened very quickly with no hesitation. The second is that the key issue that Africa as a bloc has been pushing, to be prioritized in the G20 discussions are all mentioned in the communique. They are, debt sustainability, the better, fairer management of critical minerals, most of which are found in the continent. That has been very clearly articulated in the communique of G20.
How can global solidarity inspire the necessary change or implementation of the Johannesburg Declaration through the United States presidency, which of course appears to be an issue here of geopolitical tension or dynamics?
Yes, I believe on the fact that the world is not going to stop moving because one country, does not show up. So no matter the power of that country, basically the rest of the world has to develop and show strong solidarity in implementing the agreement or the outcome of the G20 meeting here in South Africa. The other powers of the world, everybody has to exceptionally and intentionally, I want to say, to put all the means together for the priorities adopted here in South Africa, to happen. And these will help basically to maintain multilateralism on due course, because some countries really want to stop multilateralism and then go on their own way. So our wish is that the rest of the world should exercise strong solidarity vis-à-vis the implementation of the current outcome of the G20.
That was Desiree Sogbavi, Advocacy Advisor for Africa at the Open Society Foundation's OSF. And in sport news, Bayana will face Morocco in an away international friendly match to be played in North African country in December. Coach Dr. Desiree Lee's Chargers will face the Moroccans at the venue still to be confirmed on Tuesday. The team will assemble in Johannesburg on Monday today and depart from Morocco on the 28th November 2025. And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting in Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Ismaila Kamara and Mustafa Sek for the technical support. Let's keep the conversation coming on all of our social media platforms, X, Twitter, formerly Twitter, Instagram, at WDR English. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is a repeat broadcast of our health program, Well Buddy. I am Imo Edit. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Baga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana. We say